The Corona manual includes an unusual technique that allows you to embroider on your knitting at the same time as knitting it. I could hardly believe it would work, but it does. Here's the purl side just finished. This design is meant to show from the knit side. There's a little window on the CN9 carriage that allows us to see which needle we're approaching. That's number 4 right. I'll demonstrate making a simple diamond starting at number 1 right. My carriage began at the right, and according to the instructions, I knitted from right to left until I was 2 or 3 needles away from number 1 right. And that's where the little window helps you a great deal. Now double a piece of embroidery floss or slimmer yarn, hang it over the needle you want to start on. Hold down the ends of the yarn very gently with one hand while knitting across with the other, and voila! The red embroidery yarn was pulled through to the knit side. Why exactly it does that, I do not know, and it won't do it if you place the embroidery yarn in position before you're as close as 2 or 3 needles away from the desired needle. Here's what happened when I tried. The yarn got knitted in, but it showed only from the purl side, which wasn't what I really wanted. For the next row, the carriage starts on the left, moves to very close to where we want to embroider, and to create the diamond, we'll lift each end of the yarn and lay it over a new needle, 1 needle away from the previous one. Then finish knitting across to the right. Repeat the process for several rows, however big you want the diamond to be. But after the first 2 of those rows, you will need to lift 1 piece of yarn, put it in position, knit a little bit more, and lift the next piece of yarn because they will be too far apart for the embroidery effect that pulls the contrasting yarn to the knit side of the fabric to work properly. When the diamond is as large as we want it, we can just start moving the other direction. And now I'm about to finish up the diamond by crossing both ends of yarn in the top stitch. Just in case this is your first one of the Hat Challenge videos, let me catch you up. The series is loosely based on my Stripping for Charity book, and my Corona group and I are playing a game whereby I see how many hats I can knit in a strip using the maximum number of possible techniques and stitches in December 2022. Each technique and each stitch gets turned into a very simple hat pattern. We're making all of the hats child-sized at 18 inches in circumference and about 7 inches tall. There's a link to Stripping for Charity in the program notes. This hat happens to be the very last hat in my strip. But this is not the last video. There will be a follow-up video in which I display all of the hats and briefly describe anything that might have been missed in all of the other videos. Okay, here's the pattern for this hat. Like all the others, 72 stitches, and I return to the rolled brim for this one. 8 tight rows, 2 or 3 numbers tighter than your main stitch size for the brim. At main stitch size, 6 plain stockinette rows to get well above the brim. Then we work the embroidery pattern for 7 rows, starting with the center stitch, moving out, 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 in, 29 more stockinette rows, then remove on waste yarn, or knit a few rows of waste yarn, and then your next hat. All this is done with number 4 yarn at a gauge of 4 stitches, 6 rows per inch.